every time the best UFC fighter lost their belt. Now, this could be a little bit subjective in that maybe I thought they were the best fighter, or maybe the UFC thought they were the best fighter and gave them the #1 pound for pound ranking on the UFC website. A few of them are going to be based off the ranking. A few of them are going to be based off of I literally just thought they were the greatest in the world at that time. #1 on our list is going to be, we got to go through it. We have to go through it. Kamaru, the Nigerian Nightmare, Usman versus Leon Edwards. We all know what happened. Leon Edwards goes out there, head kicks him in round #5 after Usman was about to tie the record for most wins in a row in UFC history. He was very close, a few fights away from even tying or beating George St. Pierre for title fight defenses in a row as well. I mean, this dude was at the top of the world, one loss, and it was outside of the UFC in a rematch in a guy he'd beaten years previous, and he was winning up until 56 seconds left, where Leon Rocky Edwards knocked him out. Look at me now! Look at me now! I mean, it was absolutely insane. So, of course, on this list of every time the best UFC fighter lost their belts, this one was Usman was the #1 pound for pound fighter on the UFC rankings, and he lost his belt in dramatic fashion to Leon Rocky Edwards. I mean, congratulations, but let's see in the trilogy, who do you guys have winning in the third matchup, Usman or Leon Rocky Edwards? Now, this next one right here is going to be very, very obvious for any hardcore UFC fan. Even a casual UFC fan knows about Ronda Rousey versus Holly Holm. We all know it happened. We all know it. Come on, Ronda Rousey was at the top of the world. 12 wins and 0 losses, going through everyone on the regional scene, going undefeated inside of Strikeforce, becoming the first female UFC champion with a first-round armbar on Liz Carmouche, getting a third-round armbar, a first-round knockout, a first-round knockout again, and then 2 more first-round finishes. Only one fight went past the second round, and that was with Miesha freaking Tate. And after all of that, it just became crumbling down as Holly Holm went out there, outstruck her in round #1, felt that range, and caught her with almost a similar kick to that of Leon Edwards. I mean, you see the resemblance a little bit there, but of course, Kamaru Usman's was a lot later on in the fight, after Usman was actually winning. Holly Holm was actually doing very, very good in that fight, and got the second round knockout, beating the best female fighter in the world at the time in Ronda Rousey. Then we got George St. Pierre. We all knew it was going to be on the list. It's freaking George St. Pierre. George St. Pierre at this time was doing very good. He had 13 wins and 1 loss. Now, this is the subjective one. You could maybe say that he was the best in the world at the time. You could say maybe it would have taken a few more years before him to be the best in the world. Maybe after the Dan Hardy win, or after the Carlos Condit win, or after the Michael Bisping win. I don't know. You can figure out whichever time period where you can say George St. Pierre was the best in the world. But personally, I thought he was the best in the world. And he had just beaten BJ Penn, who was a very, very good fighter at the time. Lost to Matt Hughes earlier on, but then rematched Matt Hughes and beat him this time around by second round head kick KO. And then he lost to Matt Serra. I think this dude was on a crazy win streak, 6 wins in a row, avenging his only professional MMA loss. And then, boom, Matt freaking Serra, Matt the Terror Serra, goes out there and knocks him out in literally 3 minutes and 25 seconds. On Tapology, listed at the #1 biggest upset of all time. I might actually have to agree. I don't think Renan Barao one was as big. I don't think Amanda Nunes, Juliana Pena was as big, or any of these other ones. I think Matt Serra, George St. Pierre was the biggest upset in UFC history. It was absolutely insane. After that one, we had Renan Barao, TJ Dillashaw, like I was referring to earlier. The main events of UFC 173 for the bantamweight belt. Renan Barao at the time with only one loss at the beginning, literally the beginning of his career, in his first ever fight with Joao Paulo Rodriguez, this random guy on the regional scene over there in Heat Fighting Championship. After that, the man went on a streak. I mean, so many wins in a row, 20 wins in a row, 23 wins in a row. Joined the WEC, beat an undefeated fighter, just kept on going on winning. One more fight, joins the UFC, wins 3 fights in a row. Then he goes out there and fights Uriah Faber for the interim bantamweight belt, beats him by a decision right there, fights Michael McDonald after that to defend that interim bantamweight belt and goes out there and submits him in round number 4. And then after that, he fights Eddie Wineland again for the interim bantamweight belt. I don't know how many times. This man he keeps on having a fight for the interim bantamweight belt, but he kept on doing it. Then again, he fights Uriah Faber again. I mean, this time he was champion. He was promoted to undisputed champion after the belt was vacated, and he knocks out Uriah Faber round number 1. I mean, this dude just went on a streak, beating so many great fighters in a row. And up comes TJ freaking Dillashaw in one of the biggest upsets of all time, one of the best fights of all time, one of the knockouts of all time. TJ Dillashaw goes out there as a 10-1 underdog, beating the consensus number 1 in the world at the time in Renan Barao. And not just beating him, dominating him and knocking him out. Also in round number 5, it was absolutely insane. A crazy night for MMA, and dude, Renan Barao was not the same after that fight. That was a crazy number 1, just boom, going straight downhill after that one. The next one, we got recency bias here, of course. Amanda Nunes and Juliana Pena for the first fight right there. First round, Amanda Nunes was doing good, taking the fight down, looking good with the wrestling and grappling. The striking was looking pretty even in terms of volume, speed, power, and things like that. And then out of nowhere, round 2, just Juliana Pena goes forward, landing big shots, gets the fight down, rocks Amanda Nunes, gets her back, and she rear nakeds her. It's one of the biggest upsets, probably the number 1 or second biggest underdog win in women's MMA history, besides freaking Ronda Rousey, Holly Holm right there. And Juliana Pena does it. She is the new champion. That is a huge example of every time the best UFC fighter lost their belt. Because Amanda Nunes is the greatest female fighter of all time. And she barely, she barely went out there and did what she usually does. She just did not look like herself because of maybe COVID and things like that. Lost the fight. And dude, that was a crazy number 1 getting dethroned by just a very, very unlikely champion, this time in Juliana Pena. The last one on our list, Anderson Silva versus Chris Weidman. Anderson Silva, we all know where he was at the time of the Chris Weidman loss right there. I mean, look at how many wins this man had in a row. Look at this. Lost to Yushin Okami back in 2006. This is before I was even born, by a legal kick. It was just an illegal kick. Didn't really, wasn't one of those situations where he really lost the fight. Came back after that, got a good first round knockout win, joins the UFC, knocks out Chris Lieben, and immediately after that, fights for the belt. I mean, Rich Franklin, in his second ever UFC fight, guess what he does? Knocks him out with a knee in round number 1, goes on a freaking tear, winning so many fights in a row. I think this is the most fights in a row won for any UFC fighter in history. I mean, he just kept on winning, even with freaking Chael Sonnen right here, which was an unlikely victory at the end of a fight that he was losing. But all of that just to lose in one of the biggest underdog wins ever, with Chris Weidman, undefeated wrestler, that went out there and knocked him out. That was a crazy one right there. And for our honorable mentions on the list right here, we are going to have Demetrius Johnson losing to Henry Cejudo by a split decision right there after Before that, if you remember, before that loss that Henry Cejudo beat Ray Borg by armbar in round number 5, Wilson Hayes by armbar in round number 3, Tim Elliott by unanimous decision. He knocked out Henry Cejudo, beat John Dodson, Kyoji Horiguchi, Chris Carriazo, Ali Bagantinov, Joseph Benavidez, John Moraga, John Dodson, Joseph Benavidez again, Ian McCall, and so many other guys. Did lose to Dominic Cruz, but come on. Look at that damn streak. Only lose to Henry Cejudo. And we got Jose Aldo. I don't know if he was number 1 at the time per se, but he was definitely up there, top 3, top 2. So he could have been the best UFC fighter at the time. That's why it's an honorable mention. I'm just not too sure. But of course, we all remember he got knocked out in 13 seconds by the Irishman, Conor freaking McGregor. It was insane. What a crazy win from Conor McGregor. And that is about it for our list. We got Usman Edwards 2. Usman losing his belt in round number 5. Julian Edwards with a head kick KO. We got Holm in round number 2 getting the head kick KO. We got Matt Serra in round number 1 getting the knockout. We also have TJ Dillashaw getting the 5th round knockout. Juliana Pena with a 2nd round submission. Chris Weidman with the TKO. I'm forgetting which rounds. And then we got Cejudo with the close decision. And McGregor with the 1st round knockout. That's the list I got right there. If you have any other guys to add on to the list, if you do agree that these honorable mentions should not be honorable mentions and they should just be on the list, tell me down below. Put your arguments down below and things like that. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. But before you leave this video, make sure to go down to the top link in the description. Most likely will be put right here, and that link will take you to a page to see all of my MMA bets. We got UFC bets, we got Bellator bets, we got PFL bets. Every single MMA bet that I make for $2.99 a month. If you want those, click the link in the top link of the description down below. I know my words are getting a little fumbled right now, but thanks for watching. See you in the next one.